Welcome to the Interview Skills webinar. Let's begin by considering this question. Have you ever been interviewed for a position and it went differently than you expected? What might have been the reason for that difference? Please take about 30 seconds to consider this question. If you need more time, use the pause button in the lower left of your screen. Given that many of us have been in this situation, let's explore some possible reasons for those differences. Reasons might include a disconnect between the candidate's expectations and the reality of the interview or the position itself. Perhaps the candidate came in with very little interview preparation or practice. It could be that the interviewers were not fully engaged during the interview or didn't take time to put the candidate at ease. Another possibility is a lack of available resources for the candidate to learn more about the job or the business segment. It's also possible that the hiring manager had biases or a lack of knowledge about the process as a whole. Given all of these factors, let's explore some ways to have a greater chance of success during the interview. Today, we'll be reviewing best practices in interview preparation and poise. We'll be identifying effective responses to interview questions considering the CPR method and Sodexo's competency model. We'll also be discovering resources to improve your interviewing skills. Step 1 is preparation. The hiring manager interview is one of the most important parts of the selection process. As a candidate, you must be able to demonstrate to the hiring manager and fellow interview panelists that you are in fact the best qualified candidate. Sodexo's positions are highly competitive with strong internal and external talent. As a candidate, you'll want to conduct careful research and come fully prepared with all of the relevant information. Let's start by knowing about the job. You'll want to review all the available information you can find about the position. Start with the position posting. What are the qualifications and job duties of this position? Look at the position profile and competencies, which are both available on SodexoNet. Research the client organization through your networks and the internet. Know and understand their mission statement, and look at their most recent annual report. Explore what Sodexo's services are provided at the facility. Learn about the work environment. And then, given all of that information you can find, prepare some questions to ask the interviewers about the job, about the work environment, about the client, and about the goals for the position. If possible, schedule a visit to observe the operation before your interview. Once you're confident in your knowledge about the job itself, take time to know yourself. Make notes on your background and accomplishments. Thoroughly review your application and resume, your education and training, your experience and work history. Consider keeping a folder to capture your accomplishments, including letters from your clients, customers, and employees. Take time to develop your brand statement. This is your 60-second elevator pitch on what differentiates you, how you have impacted the organization, and why they should select you. Be prepared with specific examples of your strengths and how they have been demonstrated on the job. Be prepared with your challenges and how you solve them, your immediate and long-range career goals, your management and work style, how you've helped maintain or enhance employee morale and team building, how you've managed change, and what you've learned and how you continue to grow. Once you know about the job, and you've taken time to know yourself, it's time to connect the two. Based on Sodexo's behavior-based interviews, the best way to connect them is through considering competencies. Sodexo's behavior-based interviews are consistent with best practices in interviewing and assess proficiency in critical job-related competencies by asking you to provide specific behavioral examples of your past job experience. They use standardized interview questions that are typically phrased, "Tell me about a time when," or "Can you describe a situation where?" Sodexo's behavior-based interviews are based on Sodexo's management competency model, shown on your screen. The core competencies in the middle reflect the competencies that are common across all management positions with Sodexo, and they serve the foundation we require for all positions. Each wedge represents the competencies that are associated with a particular job group within Sodexo. They are in addition to the core competencies. For example, if you are looking at the competency set for a district manager, the profile we look for includes the 10 core competencies and the 6 position-specific competencies. This model can be very useful to us as we prepare for interviews. If you take time to match your experiences to the competencies listed in the role you're applying for, you'll have a head start when you go into the interview. As you consider these competencies, focus on your experiences related to the critical competencies for that position. Spend time in advance to write down examples, and align your experiences and organize thoughts based on these competencies. Let's take a moment to try it. On your screen is one of the core competencies, drive and dependability. The definition is also displayed. The definitions for all of Sodexo's management competencies are available on SodexoNet. Simply search the word competencies. For this exercise, list 2 or 3 experiences or managerial skills you would be able to relate in an interview, so the interviewer would understand the level of competency you possess in this area. This exercise is designed to make you think about your experiences and be prepared to answer interview questions with confidence and supporting details. By preparing now, you'll have quicker recall to respond during the interview. Take about a minute to complete this exercise. If you need more time, use the pause button in the lower left of your screen. And remember, you can consider your whole career for examples, but know that your most recent examples will show how well you possess these competencies now. Now let's take some time to reflect. What felt natural or unnatural about pairing your experience with the Sodexo competency? What did you find yourself struggling with? Take a brief moment to consider these questions and apply them as you develop your action plan at the end of this session. Now that you've taken the time to investigate the job, reflect on your experience, and then pair the two by considering competencies, it's time to practice. Practice articulating your brand statement with a peer, with a boss, or with a mentor. Taking time to practice that 60-second elevator pitch will ensure you can articulate it well during the interview. Practice answering behaviorally based interview questions. Again, use a mentor, boss, or colleague who has hiring manager experience at Sodexo. Practice, practice, practice. until you are confident that you can address specific competencies with relevant examples from your experience. Now that you've prepared for the interview, let's discuss what to do during the interview. Of course, just before the interview, you'll want to make sure that you confirm the date, time, location, and names and job titles of the interviewers. You'll want to wear professional attire and take time to review the job details and your notes. Bring your resume, references, portfolio, and any other information that supports your career experience. You can bring a notebook and pen if you would like to take notes during the interview. Allow for additional travel time to ensure you have time to find the interview location. And be sure to turn off your cell phone and give your full attention to the interviewer. During the interview, be aware of both your verbal and nonverbal cues. Give a firm handshake and maintain eye contact. Speak confidently and smile. Also pay attention to the verbal and nonverbal behavior of the interviewers to ensure that they're understanding your responses. Be aware of and sensitive to cultural communication styles. And be aware of your nervous habits, such as pen tapping, giggling, or jumpy legs. Try to keep them under control during the interview. As you respond to questions, it's okay to take time to think of your answer before you respond. Silence is okay now and then. If you don't understand the question, ask for it to be clarified. Answer questions as thoroughly as possible. Remember to convey your answers like telling a story, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's okay to take your own notes during the interview, but you may need to turn them in at the end of the interview to maintain the security and integrity of our interview questions. As you answer the interview questions, think of your response in terms of the CPR model, the circumstances or context, the performance, and the results. So, describe the situation or the circumstances, what you did or the performance, and then what the outcome was or the results. Speak in the first person and in the past tense. For example, what I did in this situation was. Be consistent with known facts about you and your work history. Avoid speaking in generalities or using textbook answers. And remember to think before you speak. Avoid filler words like, you know, or And don't rush your conversation. As you wrap up the interview, don't forget to demonstrate enthusiasm and a positive attitude. Ask the questions you've prepared, plus others that might arise during your interview. You can ask questions about the unit and location, such as staffing structure or recent performance on employee and customer surveys. You can ask why the position is open or the expected challenges of the role. If you have questions about the salary, let the interviewer bring that question up first. Spend time before the interviewer researching the salary for the type of position and area. Be flexible, but know what you expect for your salary range. If your range is flexible, indicate that to your interviewer. It's okay to ask questions about hours and time off during the interview. And don't leave the interview without a full understanding of the timeline and next steps for the hiring process. Take time to ask the interviewer and any panelists for their business card or contact information so that you can follow up after the interview. For grade 10 and above positions and many grade 8 and 9 roles, hiring managers will use a panel interview process. Find out ahead of time if your interview will be with one person, a sequence of people, or multiple interviewers at the same time. Here are some additional considerations for panel interviews. First, maintain good eye contact with each person in the room when answering. Check for understanding from everyone, even if one person is asking all the questions. Adopt a more presentation-like style, since you'll be speaking to more than one person. And ask questions of each interviewer, such as, what are your expectations of this position? And what are the key challenges facing your area right now? To wrap up, A good interview will not only provide the hiring manager with a thorough understanding of your strengths and how they match what is needed for the job, but will also provide you with complete information about the job, the client, and the challenges that you would face in the role. The interview should also include an outline of next steps in the hiring process. Let's take some time to do another practice exercise. On your screen is a behavior-based interview question. Take a moment to read through the question, then write your response on a sheet of paper. Remember to address the circumstance or context, performance, and results of your experience. You'll have about a minute to complete this exercise. If you need more time, use the pause button in the lower left of your screen. Now take a moment to reflect on your answer. Do you feel an interviewer could evaluate your level of competency based on your answer to this question? Did you remember to include all the elements of the CPR model? You can also take time to practice this interview question with a colleague to ensure you can articulate your answer as well verbally as you do in writing. Before the hiring manager interview, you may experience several phone interviews with the talent acquisition team. Your first point of contact would be a phone screen with the recruiter. The recruiter confirms your education and experience from your resume and makes sure that they match the position requirements. The recruiter will also share job information with you and verify your continued interest in the role. During this interview, be prepared to discuss your job-related experience. You may also be asked to participate in a competency interview. This is a behaviorally based interview conducted by a trained competency interviewer from the talent acquisition team. During this interview, be prepared to discuss specific examples of your previous experience using that CPR model. Here are some additional considerations for any telephone interview. First, listen carefully and ensure that you're either prepared or reschedule to a time when you'll be in a quiet location. Check for understanding verbally. Ask if the interviewer needs clarification on your response. Allow for silence, both in composing your response and in allowing for the interviewer to take notes. Wait for verbal acknowledgement that the interviewer is ready to move on to the next question. Use the phone interview to your advantage and work from your notes and other written materials such as your resume. Consider standing up and smiling. Although you won't see the interviewer face to face, your voice will come across with much more authority. Now that you've prepared for and completed a successful interview, let's talk about follow-up. At the end of your interview, be sure to write down the interviewer's names and contact information so that you can write a follow-up thank you note. Send a note to each interviewer as soon as possible after the interview. Include in your note appreciation for their time and a reminder of your interest in or fit for the position. Express your enthusiasm about next steps in the process and provide any additional information as a follow-up from the interview questions. If you are asked for written references, this is a good time to provide those as well. If you haven't heard from the hiring manager within 7 to 10 days, it's okay to follow up with a phone call to the recruiter for an additional status update. If you receive an email message asking you to complete an application or requesting information for a background check, please respond as soon as possible. Now let's talk about resources and next steps. Sodexo's employee business resource groups offer not only a way to network within the organization, but they also provide professional development programs on resume skills, interview skills, preparing for promotion, career strategy, and networking. Leverage your mentoring relationships. Whether it's formal or informal mentoring, take time to reach out to your mentor and rehearse responses to those interview questions. Finally, use your local resources, such as your HR representative, supervisor, or coworkers and colleagues to help you practice your interview skills. Now it's time for you to identify your action plan. A sample action plan is shown on your screen. Using the resources available to you and this sample plan, take a moment now to write out your action plan. What resources are you going to explore? When will you set aside time to match your job experiences with the competencies to your desired role? Who will be your partner, and when will you reach out to them to practice your interviewing skills, including answering those structured, competency-related questions? Will you take time to create a job agent in the Career Center? As you match your experience to the competencies from the competency model, you may find a development need. Will you create a development goal to begin gathering experience in that area? Take a moment now to write out your action plan. If you need more time, use the pause button in the lower left of the screen. Thank you for attending this webinar. If you have further questions on interviewing or resume skills, please contact your local HR team.